further ado, I declare that the ceremony for the installation of our new Chancellor be open.
Let us give thanks to God, the Creator of all, for this university, our beautiful campus, and all who study and work here. We remember those who had the vision to found the University of Keele. Let us pray that the tasks of education and research may continue to be carried out with integrity. Let us pray for those who will graduate from here, that their gifts may be used in the communities in which they live, that the world may become a better place. As we prepare to install a new Chancellor, let us pray for him and that his tenure may see a time of fruitful and sustainable development for the university. Let us pray that God will give us strength and vision, and may grace be given to us to thank God for all. Amen.
Pro-Chancellor, distinguished guests and colleagues, I'm pleased to announce that Jonathon Porritt is present today for installation as Chancellor of this university, and I call upon the Pro-Vice-Chancellors, Professor Mark Ormerod and Mr Kevin Mattinson, to conduct the Chancellor-designate to his chair of office. I call upon community representatives to bid the Chancellor-designate to his chair of office.
On behalf of the county and people of Staffordshire, I invite Jonathon Porritt to take up the office of Chancellor of Keele University. May he be a beacon for integrity and an ambassador for this university and our county of Staffordshire.
On the behalf of the community of Newcastle-under-Lyme, I invite Jonathon Porritt, CBE, to take up office of the Chancellor of the Keele University. May he be granted wisdom and courage in carrying out his duties.
On behalf of all Keele students, past and present, I invite Jonathon Porritt, CBE, to take up office of Chancellor of Keele University. May he be an inspiration to us all and a guardian of all that is just and right.
Pro-Chancellor, distinguished guests. If there were a job description for the role of Chancellor, there would be a long list of desirable qualities of the appointee, but probably just 3 essential characteristics. These are that a university Chancellor must, firstly, possess a reputation for academic integrity and an associated willingness to question accepted orthodoxy through reasoned argument and scholarship. Secondly, have made a substantial impact in an area that truly reflects the mission and values that are special to that university. And thirdly, that the person should be well known in the wider community, for all the right reasons, I should add, in order to help the institution achieve its broader educational ambitions. Jonathon Porritt fulfills these criteria admirably, but his career has certainly not been a traditional one. Jonathon's higher education started at Oxford University, and he originally studied to qualify as a barrister. But he chose instead to become an English teacher in London, a job that he says he loved. By this time, he was already making a name for himself as a prominent member of the Ecology Party, now the Green Party, which he chaired between 1978 and 1984, increasing the membership from a few hundred to over 3,000. His first book, Seeing Green, was published in 1984, the same year that he left teaching, after 10 years, to become director of Friends of the Earth, a role he held for 6 years until 1990. As if he wasn't already both an expert and a voice on environmental matters, he says that the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992 was a life-changing experience. The broader issues of sustainability have certainly dominated his work since then, in some ways expressed in pictures through the Hard Rain and Whole Earth exhibitions with which he's been actively involved, and it is no coincidence that Whole Earth is being launched here today. Jonathon received the CBE in January 2000 for services to environmental protection. But his impact is far wider than that accolade suggests. Jonathon is, or has been, involved in a plethora of leading sustainability NGOs and charities as patron, chair, or special advisor, and notable roles include trustee of the World Wildlife Fund, chairman of Sustainability Southwest, board member of the Southwest Regional Development Agency, and co-director of the Prince of Wales's Business and Sustainability Programme. Jonathon was chair of the Sustainable Development Commission from 2000 until 2009, and this was a hugely influential body that has placed the UK at the forefront of SD initiatives. But it is clear that government ministers often disliked the challenging recommendations of the Commission and the unflinching way that Jonathon presented the arguments, so much so that it was disbanded in 2009. So Jonathon has been actively involved with sustainability at regional and national level, with charities and other organisations that work with young people, communities and businesses in the UK. But he has also reached out globally in other capacities. One of these concerns a hugely important contribution that I have not yet mentioned. In 1996, with Sarah Parkin and Paul Eakins, he founded the sustainable development charity Forum for the Future, a hugely influential organisation that Jonathon regards as his home base. Forum for the Future publishes a superb magazine and is the UK's leading SD charity that works with over 100 partner organisations, including some of the world's leading companies. Jonathon has written half a dozen books, including Liberty and Sustainability, where one person's freedom is another's nuisance, Capitalism, as if the world matters, Playing Safe, Science and the Environment, and Living Within Our Means. The titles both identify Jonathon's ideologies, but also show a breadth of understanding that is crucial to such a complex issue as sustainability. Jonathon is never shy of confronting critics, big corporations, or indeed broad sectors of society if he feels that the evidence requires actions on matters of sustainability. A colleague told me that Jonathon has a tactic for quelling chief executives of large organisations, and it is simply to revert to being a teacher again. Apparently, quote, compared to a bunch of inner London adolescents, the most eminent board members are a doddle. Indeed, any of us who have attended one of his lectures know that it would be a brave person to question one of Jonathon's assertions, as he seems to hold the gaze of the entire audience, ending his proposition with a challenging, and anyone who fails to see that is, quite frankly, mad. Seriously, okay? As he looks round the room slowly and deliberately, eyebrows raised in preemptive astonishment that anyone would dare to let a mutinous thought pass their lips. Whilst Jonathon was undoubtedly a huge loss to teaching, nobody could question the massive impact that he has had on environmental and sustainability issues in ways that have advanced the education of people from every walk of life. Jonathon has therefore received acclaim and recognition from the highest levels, but is committed to addressing issues that affect everyday people around the world. His impact on environmental issues is aligned to Keele's commitment to sustainability, a commitment that concerns activities locally here on campus, but also in the wider regional and UK communities, and hopefully globally too. His adherence to academic rigour and scholarly argument align perfectly with the ideals of this university, and we look forward to him supporting our goals of providing the highest quality of education for our students and undertaking excellent research that has a positive impact upon all sectors of society. Pro-Chancellor, on behalf of Keele University, it gives me great pleasure to present to you our new Chancellor, Jonathon Porritt.
Jonathon Porritt, by virtue of my authority as Pro-Chancellor, and on behalf of Senate and the Council of the University, I invite you to take up the office of Chancellor of this university. Do you wish to accept the invitation?
I do. I hereby declare that I will, at all times and seasons, fulfill the duties of Chancellor as required by the Charter of the University, and will loyally uphold and maintain the privileges and rights of the University, and will endeavour to promote the purposes for which the University exists. And this is my solemn affirmation.
Jonathon Porritt, you have declared the Chancellor's oath. I therefore install you as Chancellor of this university.
Thank you.
I'd now like to call on Samuel Greening, who will make a presentation to our new Chancellor.
you. Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, friends, Keele colleagues. It's the first time I've been able to say that, and it is quite a privilege. I can only tell you that this is quite a daunting experience, to be honest, and quite a weighty one, too. I'm feeling that mobile phones should always be turned off on occasions such as this in case of any embarrassment. But I do feel this is an extraordinary day for me. I can only tell you how special it is in that regard. And obviously, there are just so many things going through my mind on this occasion. I have been party to occasions of this sort before, graduation ceremonies and so on, and I've often thought, looking at the Chancellor presiding over occasions like this, I thought, what must it be like to be a Chancellor? This is a sort of extraordinary thing. And the last occasion that I went to, which involved my daughter graduating at Durham University in the summer of last year, Bill Bryson was the Chancellor at that time. He's stood down now, and he gave an absolutely fantastic graduation speech that had everybody laughing uproariously in the aisles of Durham Cathedral, and I was hugely impressed. I was even more impressed when I heard that he'd given exactly the same speech 16 times in a row, with barely a differentiation between each version. I felt for a while that the assembled crowds might start to sing along with him, as it were, as he got into his groove. So I've never really seen myself standing in front of you, people like you, wearing something like this and thinking, this is a very heavy responsibility that is now put upon my shoulders. And obviously with Sir David Retherill here today, I have a very clear sense of my predecessors in this role. As you know, only 3, which in itself is pretty daunting. There's obviously something in the air of Keele University, and perhaps even in the air of Staffordshire as a whole, that provides a kind of elixir of life for those who step into these shoes, and I'm sort of comforted by that a little bit, because it is certainly a very interesting time to be taking up this role. The 50th anniversary of the incorporation of the university is of itself such an extraordinary moment for everybody involved in this community. And to be part of that as it unfolds through 2012 and on from here is obviously something that's very special and something that I much look forward to contributing to. I'm one of that generation that went to university in 1968, which still has a certain resonance to it, I'm happy to say. I wasn't a completely revolting student in those days, but I did my fair share of dissenting in appropriate ways at that time. That instilled in me a certain sense of what universities are about and what a nation needs to do to invest in the young people of that country, to ensure that they take through their share in making sure that country succeeds in the future. And I have to say, I think the conditions with which students of my generation were encouraged to see the importance of university education, encouraged to see the contribution that they could make through the university experience they had. I think it was an easier time for us than I think it is for young people today. I feel deeply uncomfortable about the fact that young people today are expected to bear the cost of their own university education, and I somehow feel that isn't the best thing for the future of this nation. I know it's our reality today, and it's certainly the reality of all of my colleagues involved in this, but it seems to me there's something a little awry there. Don't worry, Vice-Chancellor, I'm not going to go off on a great campaigning speech here, although you did half encourage me along the way. But I can't help but think that for young people today, this is something of a double whammy. Trying to imagine what it's like emerging into the world today with a degree, thinking what that world is now going to provide and make available to ensure that you as a graduate can put the skills that you've acquired, the experience, the knowledge, the insights to best use in society. That ought to be a moment of real excitement, of real engagement in your own career and the notion of service to your community and your country. And yet, in fact, many young people today emerge into a world where they're confronted by a double whammy that we, the generation that has managed this world over the last 20, 30, 40 years, a double whammy that we have engineered. One in which the financial debts of many countries today, particularly in the OECD, make it extremely difficult to think of ways in which we can pay down that debt without further and possibly even more stringent austerity of the kind that we're just beginning to experience. Accompanying that, of course, the second part of this double whammy, the ecological debt that we have built up during that time, through the drawdown that we have made on the Earth's natural capital, and I will be saying a little bit more, actually quite a bit more about that in my lecture this evening. That's a bit tricky for young people. I'm not surprised, therefore, that many of them do find themselves inevitably drawn towards political dissent of some kind or another. I was reading about Los Indignados in Spain the other day, seeing what the comparison was between what they feel and what young people here in the UK feel with the We Are the 99, the Occupy movement. In Spain, youth unemployment is now in excess of 50%. It's not far behind that in Italy, not far behind that in Greece. And coming out into a world where 50% of your colleagues, graduates and non-graduates alike, are unemployed is a tough call at any time. That inevitably is part of my worldview as your incoming Chancellor, but rest assured, I have a strong predisposition to optimism and not being very gloomy about these things. I have tried to go against the trend of doom and gloom, the apocalyptic elements in the Green Movement for nearly 40 years, and I will continue to do that in this role, I can assure you. Not least because I do feel very upbeat about so many of the things going on in the world today. I've had an extraordinary 6 weeks at the start of this year as I'm writing a book about 2050 and how we got to be living in a sustainable world in 2050. If you need to cheer yourselves up, just think about this extraordinary journey ahead of us. And it is an amazing journey. And it is one that can now be underpinned by the kind of technological revolution that we really never dreamed about before. Now, for me, in an absolutely clear way, universities are at the heart of that challenge, absolutely at the heart of that challenge. The relationship that Forum for the Future has had with Keele University now, going back to 1998, when we first went into partnership with Keele University, has been an important part of what we've done. For me, it's obviously a critical part of my excitement in taking up this role, that Keele is already an exemplar on so many different aspects of sustainability, through all the different facets of a university, through community, through the campus, through the curriculum. There is already extraordinary leadership here at Keele. And thank you very much, Pat, for your very generous comments in your oration before a little bit earlier today, which certainly reminded me that this whole aspect of how academic rigor, good science, the use of knowledge to help move things forward is an essential part of what we're trying to do now. So I have to say that when Nick first wrote to me and said that he had something that he'd like to talk to me about, I didn't quite know what he had up his sleeve, but I thought it might be something about further enriching the relationship between Forum for the Future and Keele University. I didn't realize that he had quite such a shock up his sleeve, but there we go. I was taken aback at the time. I'm still a little bit surprised to be standing here in front of you today, I have to admit, but nonetheless, as you can imagine, absolutely delighted and deeply honored. And if I can carry out this role with even a fraction of the inspiration and the commitment of my predecessors in this role, then I feel you will have made a very good decision. Thank you.
Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, distinguished guests. Today's installation ceremony is a rare and distinguished event for Keele University. The welcoming of a new Chancellor is always a proud and important moment for every university, and we're delighted to welcome Jonathon Porritt as our new Chancellor today. But for Keele, as you will have heard already, this is an especially rare occasion, as it's only the 4th time in our history that we have installed a new Chancellor. Jonathon follows a line of distinguished and long-serving Chancellors. Her Royal Highness Princess Margaret, who was our first Chancellor, served for over a quarter of a century. Sir Klaus Moser, distinguished social scientist, was Chancellor from 1985 to 2002. And Sir David Wetherell, Regius Professor of Medicine at Oxford University, who is stepping down today, has served as Chancellor since 2002. We are delighted to welcome Sir David here today, and I would like to pay tribute on behalf of Keele to his excellent contribution to the achievements, development and recognition of the university during his time as Chancellor. Jonathon takes up his role at a pivotal moment, both for Keele and for universities in the UK. The current year represents a transition. For the sector as a whole, it sees the end of a period of a decade or so of relatively generous funding and opportunities for growth and development. And it marks the beginning of a new environment from 2012 onwards, in which the regime of higher student fees, significant reductions in funding from government, and increasing competition for universities arrives. Add to that the competitiveness of the job market for new graduates in the context of the challenging national and global economy, and we see a very different world from that of the first decade of this century. But as Keele reaches its 50th birthday as a chartered university this year, and its 63rd anniversary as a higher education institution, we feel well placed to compete and to thrive. The vision is clear. We shall continue to be one of the UK's leading campus-based universities, with about 10,000 students, and we shall be recognised for the high quality of our education and our research. We're investing in continuously enhancing our teaching provision and in developing our strengths in our focused areas of research excellence. We're seeking to become increasingly international, not just in terms of student numbers, but also, and more importantly, in the way we operate. We want all our students to be part of a community that is international and diverse in outlook, international in the standard of all that it does, and known around the world for its achievements. But we're also committed to doing this with 2 other key ambitions. Firstly, we wish to ensure that all we do has direct social, community and economic impact. We want our graduates and our research to influence society for the better, whether that's in our own home region of North Staffordshire, where we have strong links and roots, or on the national and international stage. Secondly, we wish to ensure that we promote environmental sustainability, not just in what we teach and research, but in the whole way we operate and do business. We aspire to be an example to other universities and businesses in pursuing an agenda of sustainability and environmental responsibility. We believe that Jonathon's appointment as Chancellor recognises and underlines our core values and ambitions. His own profile as a critical thinker, as clear advocate for the values that we share, as believer in the importance of evidence-based and science-based policy and decision-making, and of course his commitment to the sustainability of current and future society matches closely what we uphold at Keele. We look forward to his support, to his wise counsel, and to his engagement in developing and delivering our vision for Keele and its students over the coming years, as we seek to further enhance the achievements, profile, reputation and influence of Keele University. Jonathon, we are delighted to welcome you as Keele's next Chancellor. I know from our discussions that you will continue to speak out for what you believe and will be a role model for our students and staff. Our founding vision back in 1949 was to create an institution dedicated to, quote, the pursuit of truth in the company of friends, unquote. And we already know that you share that philosophy. We look forward to your engagement with our future development.
Well, at this juncture, the Vice-Chancellor suggested I might say one or two more things, but I thought that was very unwise, as I've got so many points in today when I have to say one or two more things. So rather than recycle any of those things at this stage, I will do what I am formally required to do and declare this congregation closed.